He thought he made a mistake the last time he threw out an emote. Alutemu, I feel for the guy. He's just been having terrible luck when we've seen him on stream. I think he's an extremely strong player, and the lineups have looked solid from week to week. This could finally be his chance to catch a break.
It could be. We'll have to see. Taking a look at the lineups from both of these players as I get them up, thankfully alphabetically right next to each other. Very kind of them. We've got the Druid, Mage, Demon Hunter, and Priest on one side. Again, Warrior omitted from Alan's lineup. And then Alutemu, Druid, Mage, Demon Hunter, and Rogue on the other side, with, again, Warrior omitted from the lineup.
For Alan, we were mentioning a while ago how Priest actually lost popularity, at least compared to previous weeks in APAC, only a handful of players bringing it. But Alan, I feel, is one of those who has been very loyal to bringing Priest every week, and he's still stuck with the Highlander version, which has definitely lost popularity after the two ofs versions, with or without Galakrond, have become more prominent, and mainly due to their consistency. I wonder what Alan, thinks is the real strength of this Highlander Priest outside, of course, Zephyrus and Raisted. And I would have to wager that he actually plays it better than most people, because this is a deck that can get into the strangest and most fringe situations with all of the cards it generates. But Alan's the type of player that can stay level-headed enough to still find the optimal lines.
I agree completely. I think that Alan has been playing at a very high level, kind of doing similar in Division B to what we've seen Surrender do in Division A for the last who knows how long in Grandmasters, where he just brings the standard decks, maybe tweaks them a little bit but for the most part, just relies on outplaying his opponent, which I do think we've seen from Alan. Very good matchup understanding, very good technical gameplay in particular, I think is what we can mainly praise Alan for in this in his game so far. And so for our first matchup here, it's going to be the Demon Hunter up against the Priest, which I'm really glad that we're going to get to see, because for me it highlights one of the main differences of Highlander Priest versus two of Galakrond Priest, where Alan here on the Highlander Priest I think has got himself a decidedly worse matchup against Demon Hunter than you do with the two of version.
I would have to agree, because the two of version tends to run more consistent ways of getting your Apotheosis and sticking targets for it, and also in some cases getting the weapon removal. Of course, the Highlander Priest has ways of getting all of those cards through Zephyrus and Raised Dead, but it's a lot less consistent just by the very nature of the deck. I will say that looking at Alan's lineup as a whole, this looks extremely outdated to me, outside of just Highlander Priest as an archetype. The build of the Demon Hunter still has Polkelt Magtheridon in there, which feels like that was one of the very first iterations of the deck. And even his Druid, it is the Kael'thas Survival of the Fittest version, with none of the newer tech in there, whereas even Surrender, I think, has finally cut Kael'thas from his Druid.
Well, you know what? Like my dad always tells me with his boomer music, they're classics for a reason, all right? And I'm going to go with the same line of thought here with Alan's decks. They're not old. They're just they're tried and tested. These are the classic versions of the decks. And I do agree. Some new theories, some new techs have made their way into there. But we saw this from Surrender, right? If we were to say that a couple of weeks ago, Surrender was also sticking with the Kael'thas Survival of the Fittest version. It's not strictly worse at all. It's just a different way to approach it. And even though most players have gone in the direction of Mount Seller or Malagos, I do think Alan's lineup here has something to offer, even if it's, like you said, a little bit outdated.
Yeah, the only qualm I have with that is that things have changed between this week and the last week of GM that we had on stream, because we did see a couple nerfs come into play and buffs that did absolutely nothing. I'm not sure if that's enough to warrant changes in the archetype of a Druid, for example, which is not directly affected by the card changes. But if anything, it goes to show that Alan believes in the old guard of decks, and we'll see if that serves him pretty well. On the other hand, for Alutemu, I mean, looking at Lorinda's stats right here, it appears that he's won 37.5% of his games all season. That's
yikes.
So crazy to think about, given that Alutemu was a player who made it all the way to the finals in the last MT before Montreal.
Yeah, it's important to realize how abysmal of a win rate 37.5 is. Like, you just don't end up anywhere near that low unless, over a very large sample size, you're doing something wrong. I think with the amount of games that Alutemu has played, like, it's not that high. It's like you're only playing 7 Swiss games a week. You can still make the argument that for the most part he was getting unlucky. But we do have to start begging questions now. Something has changed, it feels like, with Alutemu. Be it the metagame isn't quite suiting him. Maybe he hasn't been able to commit as much time. Or maybe we'll see over this series that he has still got what it takes.
Wait, I'm sorry. Alan's opener. We've seen 2 of Priest miss their 1-drops, but Alan just has 1 into 2 anyway. Of course.
I mean, which 2 do you even want? Do you just go Zephyrus Wild Growth here? I'm not even sure what's best. Probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, with the Siamat, that's something to ramp towards.
Mm-hmm.
And the Zephyrus itself challenges the Spirit Jailer very cleanly. Alutemu can just shard shatter this board if he wants to, but that shuts off the coin marrow slicer possibility for the next turn. So we're just gonna take it slow. The one maker.
Yeah, I like it a lot. This board needs to be wrestled back a little bit slower than that.
Whoa. This curve from Alan is perfect.
Pretty nuts. I will definitely say that. Like, I'm looking already before the coin has been used at trying to find some opportunity for Ilusha. Like, it probably wasn't on that turn, I think, but it's approaching that point. Like, this turn, I think we can start looking at a little bit heavier. The best play you're giving your opponent is just play the Cabal Acolyte, which is not that powerful on its own. It needs some help.
So you're thinking renew first into Ilusha, and then use their coin?
I mean, at this point, maybe you just go Cabal Acolyte Renew. Like, it's a powerful turn here. I was just thinking for the possibility of just go Ilusha first, and then you have coin with 3 mana. I guess you're not coining into anything particularly impactful most of the time.
Right. I mean, my problem with that line is you give them Cabal with Renew, right?
I guess so.
If you don't renew first.
Dance, puppet, dance.
Yeah,
I think it's totally fine to hold on to Ilusha.
Agreed. Agreed. Just exploring the possibility.
Okay. Shatter Shard looks pretty clean here for Alutemu, can also fit in the Spirit Jailer.
Yep.
And then he has Lapidary to follow up. Or just getting that Marrow Slicer online, because we have seen hands from Demon Hunter where their weapons kind of pile up, and they kind of wish they had started swinging the charges earlier so they can get all the damage through sooner.
Oh, he still doesn't want to go Ilusha here. I was looking at it so heavily on this turn. You give your opponent a load of absolute garbage. They still have the coin.
That's true.
Like, I don't want to let Cast Division get to me here, but it felt clean.
This turn, it definitely looked a lot more reasonable.
Again,
they don't have anything playable but Holy Ripple and the top deck for the next turn.
Right. The obvious thing to mention is that in this matchup, generally the time to go for Ilusha is just after Skull of Gul'dan has been played, so it's very possible that Alan is gearing up for specifically that.
And for Alutemu, he has tons of ways to start developing damage or pressure on board, but he does kind of want to preserve the 3-2 and also not leave an Apotheosis target. However, I just remember this is Highlander Priest, and so the likelihood of Apotheosis is a lot lower compared to the 2-ofs Priest, so everything going face I think is reasonable here.
Multiple very powerful 7-cost plays on this turn. Soul Mirror, generally you want to save for Militia, I think, in this matchup. Not necessarily hard bookmarked, or earmarked, I should say, not but still, you want to be saving that where possible. So I do like the look of CM.
Agreed. Or Rush Divine Shield, and then the 2-2 goes into the 3-2. Priest definitely much playing the defensive here, so I don't think there's much reason to like go rush Wind Fury. Alutemu is the Demon Hunter player that's running Altruist. I mentioned it a while ago without remembering who that was that had it.
Oh, right, yeah. And
but that also gets very spicy with Ilusha, assuming that he sets up for it with Skull of Gul'dan.
That is true. Just take your 8-8 and 5-5 here.
Oh, it's scary, but so is the 50-50 Galopon.
And it's really tough. Like, Elucia on that turn, again, I was looking at it. It lets your opponent just play out Soul Mirror, which is a bit scary because then you don't have an answer to the Militia, necessarily. But it didn't give your opponent a proactive turn, at least.
Yeah, but what do you do with your turn if you just go Elucia and you
Just
don't hit
play
a
their
good
cards.
minion?
They still have the coin, right? This is the main thing I'm talking about. You're likely to be able to play
Sure.
something here.
But if it leaves up their 5-5 and 1-3, probably not worth it, right? And then
That's
you
fair.
don't necessarily develop enough to challenge it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, for Alutemu, the 8-8 is definitely a problem here. He has Soul Shear and Trade if he really wants to get rid of it. But it feels so bad to sink the 5 into this.
Trade.
everything.
Oh, man. This is 12 damage that isn't going face. Like, I agree with him probably because he's taking way too much damage and Apotheosis just ends the game if he doesn't. But, oh, does it not feel good?
Yeah, agreed. So if we look at Elucia again this turn, you still don't give your opponent anything that great. Like the Soul Mirror, is it?
Yeah, that's true.
I must consider.
Finally letting rip. Like, if
Definitely
he goes for
like
it now,
better this turn than last.
he can coin into Militia. Now is the difference with this play, right?
Yeah. That is the mana break point that he could have had. And for me, it's the difference of the board state, where he was only staring down a 1-3 right now compared to 5-5 last turn.
This
That I
definitely
was-
feels like...
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Definitely feels like he's gearing up for it now, though. You know, throwing out the Holy Ripple for very limited value, just for a little bit of heal for the most part. Like, we're setting up for very possibly 7 mana card and then Elucia just to give your opponent a bad turn. Or maybe you just rip the Elucia right at the start.
Impatient.
I think it very much depends on what Alutemu goes for here.
True.
You mentioned how post-Skull is definitely a juicy timing to play Elucia. And Alutemu is likely to play it this turn, I would say. Reasonably so.
It does feel that way. Unless he wants to spend his mana on, like, Consume Magic, Shard Shatter, and then, I don't know, Chaos Strike. It all feels very clunky outside of Skull.
He can still go for the Shard Shatter this turn. And he is gearing up for a huge Altruist, but this could be the most back-breaking Elucia in history.
God. And he can start to make reads. Like, you know, that Holy Ripple did very, very little on that turn. It's not a strong read at all, but it's a hint that they might be gearing up for that Elucia.
But after having played the Skull, the way to play around it is spending your Twin Slices on not much, and then they just play Altruist for tempo and you lose your win condition anyway. So I like that Alutemu is just praying it's not there, but I think Alan can have a strong read now.
Oh, it's so good! Oh my god. The Altruist as well.
Yep. Alutemu, I don't
Knew it.
think this was a huge surprise to him. He was taking the calculated risk. And you go Altruist stuff, and the Consume Magics actually sort of mess with the Altruist train.
Do you
somewhat,
see what must be done?
because of the drawn cards.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you don't really want to draw a card here, right? Is the problem,
Right.
of course.
Gonna give it back to Alutemu.
So it is probably, yeah, just Consume Magic first. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Not too quickly.
As a dump. And then
Yeah.
you go Blade Dance, Twin
Dance.
Slice, Twin Slice.
Yep.
And the Chaos Strike, I would have to assume. Oh, sorry, not enough mana.
Yeah, just throwing out all the cards he can, doing a whole bunch of damage, and saying to Alutemu, you know what? Play your Soul Mirror and cry. Soul Mirror Broom? It doesn't even work, right? You can't attack again.
No. If only he could Soul Mirror and say, "Stop, Ultras, don't attack," and then...
Objection!
I don't even know at this point. Looks like he's going for a Galakron play just for the armor, and if he misses Ultras, he can still deal with it with the Broom and Hero Power.
You could obviously play the Raised Dead to give Alan Demon Hunter minions, which are maybe worse, but that doesn't seem worth it at all.
Yeah, you don't want to take the 3.
Oh.
That is a big boy. I'm playing these for tempo. I mean, the Cabal Acolyte and the Water Bearer every day of the week.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's fine if Alutemu silences the Cabal Acolyte. Alan just threatens lethal the next
This
turn.
is a 5-5. Straight up, you do not care about the effect. I mean, not massive.
Okay, Karja is actually even more damage on board. Sure. So outs for Alutemu. Militia?
Militia, but there aren't even that many soul fragments left in the deck, right? That's the card to stay alive. Has to play Warblades, but can draw first.
Yeah. There's 3 soul fragments in the deck. Not that he has mana to play Militia at this point. You think you go Warglaves consume?
Mm-hmm. I think you save the hero power for after because it's unlikely to change your play.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 4 damage. Limited ways to close this out in the Priest's pool, if any, to actually immediately get the kill. The Inner Fire gets a fair bit of the way there if you want to go super aggro. Oh.
Guy Stalker. So annoying for Alutemu to remove.
Oh, Militia.
Oh no, he drew
Another
fragment.
soul fragment. Yeah, that's.
There's only
not
2 left in
one.
the deck.
So you draw here, and then you go Twin Slice, and hope to heal for 1 billion.
Why does it say he has 0 mana? The game's already conceded for Alutemu.
Yeah, I think the Spectator on his hand there may be having a slight issue. But it is Twin Slice that he drew on that turn.
Mm-hmm. If you go Skull of Gul'dan, best thing he can hit is nothing, actually. Blade Dance, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess like Lapidary as well, maybe.
I think Blade Dance is the out,
Okay,
along with
fair.
the Twin Slices.
Unless, of course, there's a Priest minion that he could get for the out. Maybe, I'm not seeing
mean-
one. Murazon doesn't get there.
You technically survive on board if you just go Militia Twin Slices and trades, but I think Alutemu needs to think bigger to actually win the game instead of just not lose this turn.
I mean, you survive on board with just Twin Slices, right? Because you go up to 12, and then there's only 11 in play.
Okay.
So he didn't have to go for this line to survive. It could have just been the Skull.
Even now, still trading.
Fighting hard for board. And Soul Mirror was saved this entire game, obviously for the Militia, and while it is underwhelming, here it is. This is what you've been saving it for. Throwing it down here feels pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Alan can just heal, continue chipping away at Alutemu. He's now seen both of the Eldrazi Warblades, so the healing is pretty much done for Alutemu.
Pretty over.
And Alutemu's got some pretty terrible top decks in there. He is running double Penflinger in this list, which
That's true.
you know, us casters enjoyed very much during the testing.
Yeah.
But it's not going to help in this situation.
I believe that was Kane that he will try and throw down alongside the Devout Pupil.
I do love a good
Good eye, Dara. Human spectator.
And now he
Alive on
steals
board.
it for the win. Oh, he doesn't.
Man, Alutemu's still in this somehow.
Oh, no, come on, surely not.
He still has
Surely.
that skull, right? The skull's still
Yeah.
in hand, he didn't play it. I don't know. Alan's whiffing on these draws. The 4-5 lines up really well against anything Alan puts on board from here. It's just a question of whether he wants to commit the Cabal Acolyte this turn. I think
Right.
you probably hold on to it, even though
Probably
the wave is just a 1-of in the deck.
Mm.
I must.
I don't think he needs to taunt yet. Holding on to Sticky Finger too because he's not seen the last Marrow Slicer.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Specs fixed as well. So
Okay.
we're starting with Skull, unless you're afraid of just drawing your entire deck. Like, it's possible
Yeah, it's
you just need to not draw to fatigue.
Alutemu's last cards are actually not very impactful whatsoever. He has Blade Dance, Marrow Slicer, Panthera, Wandmaker, and a bunch of removal, and the Pen Flingers. So, looks
you
like he's
just
just
don't
gonna
draw?
hold on to Skull altogether.
Wow. At
It's
least
not a
until he
board
has
that
to.
requires a Blade Dance.
So there's the
Trade
steal.
Gamer!
Oh my god, it's working. The trade plan is actually working.
By Jove, he's done it?
No Galacrond in his deck. It was stolen by Alutemu.
You're right!
Oh,
That's just a 6-6!
bad Boulder Fist Ogre. Me have terrible stats for the cost.
What on earth is going on?
Consider.
The Demon Hunter is outvaluing the Priest
Oh my
by using
God.
Galacrond.
Surely not.
I mean,
Your mind.
big deal he takes a 2-1. This
Yeah.
devout pupil has been carrying Alutemu's game plan.
Okay, that does nothing. That's a dead card now for the moment.
He can try to hit his Marrow Slicer,
Right. Yeah. That's the play for sure.
but there's soul fragments to mess with the possible discounts.
Oh, that's a miss.
And he only has 3 actual cards in the deck right now. There are 2 soul fragments.
So does
So I'm not
Alan
even sure if
just
you want
fatigue?
the Panthera draw.
Right.
I think he just wants the hero power every turn.
Inner Fire? Doesn't
Doesn't
really do
much.
anything. Yeah, +1 damage, I guess.
I think he just hits the button and probably soul shears and trades the 2-4, 4-5 in the 4-4. Just continue on with the game plan. Yeah, Panthera before hero power makes sense as well.
Button.
Time is running out.
This is so weird.
So weird. Whoa!
Hello?
He wants the draw.
He's seen
Okay.
Soul Mirror? He's
Oh my
seen
lord.
Zephyrus?
Soul
How does
Share
Alan even
trade
deal with this?
Flesh Giant. He's insane here. Alutemu's winning.
Is this just a lethal setup next turn? With Marrow Slicer, certainly, right? Oh, but he has Life Seal, Penance, Hero Power. Okay. So this 3-5 goes in the 4-3. You
Mm-hmm.
Penance the Cane.
Or
You hit
probably the
the
other way around.
Wand
But
Maker?
yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Other way around. And
then,
so you leave 13 on board, you go up to... I mean, he's not dead.
he's not dead, but is he winning?
Unlikely. Because Alutemu has Marrow Slicer Blade Dance, clean up the Krongs, and File Fiend.
Yep. Keep that board control while you can.
Is it finally time for Penflinger to shine? The last 2 cards in the deck are Penflingers.
Penflinger Inner Fire. Illegal.
Wait. This means that the Marrow Slicer, Penflinger, Blade Dance means you don't have to trade a minion to get rid of the Kronks.
Perfect, all
right?
clear. You can even fit in the hero power afterwards, right?
Insane!
Absolutely insane. Let's get another Flesh Giant. How do we feel about that?
Let's get another Penflinger, if only it were a minion. I don't know what I'm watching, but I love it.
Right, that's a 2-2.
Alan felt like he was so far ahead at the beginning of this game. But who would have thought that giving Alutemu Galakron would be his undoing?
And you know what? Fair play to Alutemu. That feels like the man that we have been missing. We didn't see him once in the first 3 weeks of Swiss because he was bottom half every single week. We only saw him once last week and he lost pretty swiftly then. Now though, that was much more like it. What a cool game and a great win on the Demon Hunter. Like we can talk about the Priest a little bit more, whether the Lucia should have come sooner, later, however you want to go about it. But Alutemu handled the cards he was given really nicely that game.
It was insane. I thought it was over from the moment the Altruist game plan was stolen away from Alutemu, but being able to immediately identify that playing Galakron and fighting aggressively for board was actually his out, and that he was free to go down to as low of an HP as he needed to because Alan, as Priest, doesn't run any burst damage, and also he'd seen the Zephyrus. That was such an interesting alternate game plan, cleanly executed there. Hats off to Alutemu.
Hats off indeed. Chonsu, you're going to have to be taking off your whatever kind of a funky hat that was he was wearing last week. But before we can continue with the rest of our final APAC series of the day, we're going to go to a quick break. We're going to see a little bit more of what Alutemu is going for here, and when we come back, we're going to see if he can go all the way to get his first win of the round robin on the table. It is the last series of the day for APAC here, but fear not, plenty more Hearthstone to come with Europe and Americas shortly after. And if you do want to be notified whenever we go live, you can of course subscribe here on the HS Esports YouTube channel, hit the bell, all that good stuff, so that you always know when we are live every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the next few weeks. And one match you are also not going to want to miss is Alan versus Alutemu. Of course, in the first few weeks, we were playing Swiss, in which Alutemu did obviously get a couple of wins. But even then, he is rocking a 37% win rate so far, which is absolutely abysmal, and obviously not what we were expecting from a player who has gone this close to the World Championships a couple of times now.
But it already feels like with that first game, I hope I'm not jinxing it, that he's turning things around. That was stellar play towards the end game there. But still, I feel like I have to hold my tongue because the last time Alutemu was that far ahead, Shakti managed to turn that whole game around with one timely prime. So from Alutemu, I just want to see him keeping his focus, making sure that no matter how far ahead he gets in any game, that he still has the concentration needed to close it out with the highest percentages he can give himself. And he has Mage and Rogue remaining, two decks where it's very difficult to suss out what the highest percent lines are because there's so much deviation in the game plan.
He does, for sure. I do think, though, that this type of mage in particular should, based on past experience, be a pretty good deck for Alutemu. He was kind of the king of Cyclone Mage back in the day when it was Mountain Giants and Conjurer's Calling, as opposed to Mana Giants and Conjurer's Callings, as we see now. That was the key to his success in the Specialist format in our first ever season of Grandmasters. Now, however, obviously it's a slightly different deck, but I do still believe that the overall thought should carry through, even if it is up against a hard matchup like Demon Hunter.
It is just a lot less intuitive how you're supposed to turbo out the Mana Giants, because previously with Mountain Giant, yeah, you just stack cards in hand while maintaining your mana as the curve goes higher and higher. This one, it's a bit more difficult to ascertain when you're supposed to play Evocation, how you optimize all of those generated spells, and we were seeing already differences from how I believe it was Religo piloting it, so I'm curious to see how Alutemu approaches that game plan.
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
We shall see. It's not a bad start at all. Obviously, he hasn't hit the cram session to go with these spell damage minions, but it's still just tempoing out. It's making sure that the the Demon Hunter cannot dominate the board, which we have already seen today. When that goes up against the mage, there's almost nothing you can do. So it's a good start from both players, which does, on average, equal out in Alan's favor. But Alutemu is just a couple of draws away from making something pretty miraculous happen.
Also worth noting that Alan's curve is not the type that Tempo Mage really struggles with. I feel like as Demon Hunter, you would much rather have the Marrow Slicer on curve as opposed to an early Bulk Out, which doesn't actually give him anything that useful in the near future.
Yeah, if he goes Polkelt this turn, he will of course draw Skull into Skull, so he will be able to go Skull on 6 on curve, which is pretty powerful, but of course he will know what he will get, which will be unplayables, obviously, on that turn.
In the end, though, just going for the Polkelt as the most stats on board with the upside of the guaranteed Outcast Skull on 6, because he does have a play of Kane's Second Slice or Hero Power next turn to fully spend his mana.
What to do? What to do?
Tamu really needs an apprentice.
He really do.
I don't mind starting with one trick and then you probably devolving missiles this and then decide whether you need to ping.
Sure. Just see what you get. Maybe your plan changes with an AI. Ice Barrier, we definitely take that.
I'd look more heavily at Mirror Image if the hand shape were a bit different, or like if he had good minions to hide behind it, but since he doesn't, I like the Ice Barrier.
Yeah, I mean, Mirror Image can obviously do a similar thing, but it's way more susceptible than Ice Barrier is, even if it's cheaper.
Ooh. Wait a second. It
that just
shuffles
ruins
into the
Polkelt.
deck, so it messes up the Polkelt, right?
Yes. That's kind of terrible for Alan, right? He just gets a random draw now.
Yeah.
Yikes.
The Skull game plan is just shut off now.
Well, we're going Kane instead, I guess.
Sure. For Alan, now I'm thinking that he needs to set up the biggest militia that he can on turn 7. So
Yep.
you can still go Kane Hero Power here and then go for the double Soul Fragment Shufflers on the next turn.
I like that a lot.
Oh. Chaos Strike this turn makes me feel like he really wants to be able to hit Skull in the near future.
Yeah, it definitely frees up more mana next turn.
Sure. I mean, he's just committing the militia charges right now, so that he has more flexibility the next turn. But I'm not sure if that's worth not having a 3/4 on board right now.
Right. It means he has an answer to Raz on the following turn with Kane's Second Slice Hero Power. So, like, you know, the expected plays there are still answers to on the following turn for sure.
I mean, he still could have had an answer if you save Soul Shear that turn, right? And then you have Second Slice Hero Power.
No, it's true. I do still prefer the other line. But it's not disastrous this way at all. This is tough. Like, Arcane Explosion with Lab Partner is really close to killing off a militia, which you do need to be afraid of. But maybe you just take Combustion then, which kind of does a similar thing. But maybe you take Frost Nova, because it's just too much pressure to even answer.
Yeah, I'm always leaning towards Nova, just because the card is extremely powerful to pair it with Mana Giants at some point. I don't think a 1/3 merits the Combustion. But
Doesn't feel like
maybe there's a way to set up a board, you Frost Nova it, then you try to get rid of everything with the Prime. Tough. It's been such a weird pan out where Alutemu has not felt the need to be so defensive, but he plays Ice Barrier anyway because he didn't have a way of spending his mana otherwise. Because Alan did not hit the weapons.
Worth saying as well, this is a potential upside to Alan's line, is he played it when he played the Soul Ship when he had something to target, whereas this turn he wouldn't have had. He'd had to shoot his own guy.
True.
A slight advantage. But the main thing is Solarian Prime is on board and it's doing Solarian Prime things. Okay. Reasonable. Reasonable.
Oh no, he drew a fragment as well.
Not what you want.
Still gonna get 5 out of 6. Very awkwardly shaped to deal with the Solarian Prime. There is a world where you just keep all of these and leave up the Prime.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's so scary, right? Like,
it is. It is super scary against Raz, against Freeze, etc., etc. I think this is much safer overall, but it was worth thinking about.
So there is Lab Partner, Ray of Frost, Combustion, clears the board.
What about Jandis Ray?
Also a consideration.
Oh, that's... You can also rush down the other 3/3, but it means... Well, you can still make the 3/5 the illusion here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just sack it in.
I like that.
Very smart. Next turn, if Jandis survives...
sorry, that was... I thought he had double Ray left. That's my bad.
Sorry. So did I. Right, okay. Then obviously my play does not work. Oh, yeah, of course, because it was from the Solarian Prime, which is why it used the first up.
Okay, Lapidary plus Aldraki is a way to get rid of the 2/7, but that's a lot of heal you're missing. So, could just be... Man, I'm not seeing a clean way of doing this. Like, you can expend a Twin Slice, but float mana.
I grow impatient.
Maybe just ignore it and start going upstairs.
there's a Conjurer's Calling naturally running the deck, right? Which is the scary, but I guess you don't necessarily have to play around that. But I think at this point, like, you can win on board quite easily.
Definitely feels like it.
Yeah, I think I like the trading route here. Like, just don't give him spell damage. That with Raz next turn is completely illegal.
Alan going for S mana expenditure here. Holding onto the twin slices rather than valuing the healing, I think fits in with his game plan, where he knows he's far ahead on board. Uh-oh.
Absolutely mammoth draw there from Alutemu. Conjure, or Evocation with the Apprentice, the Dream. And
that's a lot of zeros.
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
How do you even start with this? Brain devolving probably happens first.
Devolving and then explosion, or explosion and then devolving? Explosion, then brain freeze, then devolving? So many ways to go about it.
Okay, this looks perfectly fine. Gets to play out one secret. And while this was an insane turn, Alutemu is out of threats. His hand is Conj and Combustion.
Out of threats, but so's Alan. Really, for the moment, both players really just running dry.
It's true. So he can try to catch the generated minion if he has a read on Netherwind Portal by playing a spell first. Doesn't really feel worth it because you don't know what the secret is.
Well, it's not Counterspell. It's not Ice Barrier. He's about to find out.
Yeah. And he still doesn't know whether or not it's Flame Ward. Oh no!
Just Combustion Cyclone?
I guess. Because he's used Evocation, it's unlikely you get to play that many spells with the Cyclone.
Yeah, I mean, being able to play one extra is a big deal. I mean, you could obviously go Conjurer's Calling, then Combustion, and pray that you're able to kill both. That feels way too risky.
Yeah, I think you'd rather have a Conj in hand than a random Cyclone spell by that point.
Like, the only question was whether you just hold for a turn entirely, like just go ping and pass there. Because one extra spell could make a world of difference. Close.
It's true. Why have we reached top deck wars in this matchup where both the decks normally feel very aggressive?
It can happen, right? No Skull, no AI, no Cram session.
This is all off the back of the Polkelp disruption with the Reliquary of Souls.
Okay, this is smart from Alan. Instead of killing the minion, he's setting up for a big swing turn with Blade Dance, yeah, to clear off instead.
I question if there's even a need to equip the Eldraki there, because now if Alan wants to push the 1 every turn, then he has to expend a charge as well. I mean, this is a hero power face pass turn.
Another dead draw means, I guess, you're just swinging in while you can. I mean, I think Alan doesn't have a strong read, obviously, on the Netherwind, but he's definitely playing around it here because there's just not really any point in playing the spells yet.
This is so depressing for Alutemu.
Torture. Absolute torture. Like, Giant, and he just wins the game on the spot, right, if that comes down. Or at least from his perspective. We can see, actually, he might not with the second slice, twin slice Blade Dance.
Both of them have extremely good potential top decks, but they haven't hit any of the goods yet. For Alan, even Magtheridon is a big draw because he has Blade Dance.
Yeah.
Skull of Gul'dan even runs one of Spectral Sight in this list.
I mean, for him,
no!
Reliquary Prime would be a fantastic draw for him as well at this point, with that having been shuffled in. It's just not weapons. Anything but these bloomin' weapons.
Bloomin'. Did I say it right?
Perfect.
This has been the weirdest Demon Hunter Mage game I've ever seen. One of them needs to draw something playable soon. You probably just hit the Cyclone at this point? I don't know. I mean, if you deal 3 to face, each Marrow Slicer deals 4, and you hero power once every turn, that's technically a lethal setup over 5
Sure. I guess.
This probably makes the clock slower because you have... I mean, clock faster with the twin slices. Okay.
Draw? Card draw?
Yup.
He gets a do-over on this turn?
If he wants to apprentice first.
You just don't, right? Like, they have a hand of removal. It's all they can have at this point, I think. Oh! That's...
Okay.
You can make a 5/5 here. And you can Conjurer's Calling it as well, right? You go 3, 5, 9.
Shenvala, Mirror Image, Freeze an Image, and then Conjure 5/5? I'm down. Just do something, anything.
Yeah, he has to double Ray, so I guess you Ray each of the 0/2s. I don't even know if it's good. Like, your opponent, like, they have a handful of removal. This is what I was saying. They almost certainly mop this up.
I mean, but they're always going to have that, right? At some point, the mage has to develop something. Otherwise, they just die to hero powers and weapon damage.
Yeah, it looks like he's holding on to the Conjurer's Calling. Like, I can respect this because it makes the top deck of Giant so much better if he has...
Right.
So much better.
See all the difference. Okay. Alan really wants to hit these taunts with the Blade Dance so he can push face. If he doesn't, there's still Glaive Bound Adept to hit on 1. Oh no!
Wow! What?
And the Shenvala survived! What on earth?
So... it just survives this turn? There's nothing you can do?
Yeah. I don't think it's so much you care that the Shenvala survives. It's the fact that he can't push the 6 face.
Yeah,
it means that Alan's clock is like so much slower now. By this point, Alutemu is unlikely to have 3 spells to activate Shenvala again all in one turn. I mean, he has to swing.
You have to
It's a matter of where he puts the Glaive Bound.
But the worst thing is, there's the Spectral Flyer in hand, so he knows it's dead if he plays it.
Ah! I mean, he just needs to free up the path to the face for the other Marrow Slicer.
Oh,
Feels
good draw. Very good draw. Prime? Yep, okay.
Are you conjuring that just to give yourself more good top decks?
No. I think you just accept that Shenvala doesn't generate this turn, right? And... like...
I mean, he can go Flyer and 1 conj with the Solarian.
Oh, you just conjure the Solarian right away.
Just to put the Prime in your deck? I have no idea.
That feels bad.
Everything feels awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unlikely that the Shenvala activation goes off next turn anyway. And you still have the other half of Punch for a Giant. I don't know. I kind of want to do it. I kind of want to throw in the Apprentice too.
I kind of do, I kind of don't. Like I said, Giant top deck just becomes insane if you keep the Conjurer's Calling. Like, you can still generate evocations to go with the Apprentice.
I mean, my thing is you still have the other half. I just wanted to set up any scrounged together way to find lethal for Alutemu over the next couple of turns with what he has showing. Huge draw though.
Huge draw. Now he can stop Alutemu from pinging himself for only 1 mana. Ooh.
Grow impatient.
Is it just Twin Slice? You just don't equip the Marrow Slicer, right?
No, no, I want to equip the Marrow Slicer and send it face.
Oh, go face? Okay,
I
sure.
Don't care about the Shenvala.
Yeah. I like it.
Alan's deck has what's in here. One more Soul Shard Lapidary, double Skulls, the Reliquary Prime. He's out of Glaive Bounds though, that's a big deal.
Steward of Scrolls? That's got to be the pick, right?
Right? It's a good conch target too.
Yep. It's an Ellie as well for half the quest. That's something. Ooh!
Evo! Hello?
Whoa!
Oh my god, I can't even watch for Alan.
Oh, magic trick! Go! Something, whatever, doesn't matter. AI? Devolving, yep. Make a wisp.
Make-A-Wisp Foundation. Definitely one that Alan will not be donating to.
Okay, yep, AI. I'd probably rather go AI than Fireball.
And another Netherwind.
Yeah, I guess Netherwind.
Disgusting.
Get another activation trade.
Actually, maybe it was Fireball there just to set up the 2-turn.
Could he have still
he
got
doesn't
the
get
double
the other
activation?
activation, right?
Right. It's close.
Whoa! Okay, Twin Slice first, plays around counter spell.
Yeah.
But what does this skull even get? One Blade Dance left.
Alas, poor warlock.
Whiff.
Alas, poor warlock.
All whiffs?
Oh, it's 11
Okay, Chaos Strike
damage.
can still draw him the Blade Dance.
I mean, I'm just looking at lethal on this turn. Does he have outs? Does he have another second slice? Twin slice, sorry?
He
Played
does
them
not.
both, right? He doesn't have mana off of Wand Maker anymore?
Nope. I don't think he's even running the One Makers. Oh no! Okay, but there is 21
lethal.
on board plus hero power, but Alan knows about the second conch, so he can conch the 2/2 Death Rattle and give himself lethal.
True! Or he can just icicle it, whatever.
Yeah, we're talking from Alan's perspective, but yeah, he just had to go for the draw to hit more soul fragments there to stay alive. But let me count again. 19, 22, 23, plus the 4 that comes off of this, that's lethal. Right?
15, 21. No, it's not. It's just slightly off, right? I count 1 damage off lethal.
Oh, yeah.
15, 21, ping,
One up.
22, plus 4. It's 1 damage off lethal.
But he has
Oh.
the Violet Spellwing with
Violet
Icicle now and
Oh my
Conch.
god! He can take the chance!
What
Like, it's plus 1 spell damage, but then he's running into issues with board space because of Shenvala activating. Is that ever a problem?
Yeah.
Do you just jam Solarian?
I don't
Ah!
know. I think you look for the one from other things.
One
Okay,
thief,
he has
one
one thief. Yeah, but you go for the
Icicle?
attack first with yeah. Guarantee that you land the buff on attacking minions.
Time runs out on me.
He's going for it. Spellwing, Conjurer's Calling. He draws the cards as well, though.
Is
We didn't
there
even
time?
think about that.
Is there
Go,
time?
go, 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 go!
Oh my god! And if there isn't time, he has Ray of Frost on both of these things.
1 missile!
Did
1
he finish?
missile!
I think Alutemu's done it. It looked like he did a sigh of relief there, but it could have been a sigh of regret. I don't know. Okay, thumbs up. He got it.
If he played it, it's guaranteed. Oh!
Okay, it was the guaranteed after using the Rays of Frost. Oh,
That was such a sick turn there from Alutemu. What has been happening off stream? Like, the games he's playing here are so clean. It's such cool gameplay from Alutemu consistently.
oh no. Maybe he's just been charging up all the energy, but I feel for Alan there. He had it in the bag at so many different points, but there were very specific things that had to go wrong for Alan to lose that game all the way back from the Polkelt Disruption. That was the only one drop that could have generated a card to shuffle in and mess with the Polkelt reordering. And then there was like his Blade Dance not hitting either of the mirror image taunts. If Alan had gotten an additional 4 damage at any point earlier, the game was over. I don't know. Luck seems to be in Alutemu's favor now.
It does
on top
this time.
Of very solid play.
I mean, I feel bad for Alan, but at the same time, like Alutemu just sitting there drinking out of what looks like a cocktail shaker, like he just does not give a damn. Like, I mean, how can you not root for this guy? He's just so goddamn cool. Okay, I won't hear anything to the otherwise, as he is now 2 games up here, having one with the Rogue up against the Demon Hunter. Definitely not what we expected, especially, as you said, with Alan having multiple unfortunate outcomes there that could have led to a win. And it's just the secret Rogue left now for Alutemu. Oh, no, sorry, I take that back. The weapon Rogue here for Alutemu as his last remaining archetype. And it's a pretty aggressive build of the weapon Rogue here. We're seeing no Steel Dancers, Ashtongue Slayers slotted in there as well. So clearly going for a super aggro game plan.
This deck feels a lot more like a hybrid rogue. I don't know how to classify it. A few weeks ago in Mull It Over, I had my rogues delineated into 3 clean archetypes, but now Alutemu has gone halfway between stealth rogue and the weapon rogue. I thought that if you're playing Ashtongue Slayers, that lends itself to a deck that also plays Sinister Strikes, but he's found room for self-sharpening a sword. This could be the way forward for rogues, or it could be, an experiment. And I think Alutemu's been one of the players that has not been afraid to tweak with his decks a little bit from week to week. Could be a reason why he's not been doing well. Could be just part of his genius. We'll see how this particular match works out.
And we're already seeing the kind of awkwardness of this deck coming in pretty cleanly demonstrated. You have the stealth package, and you have the weapon package. It's obviously you're running stealth in pretty much all the self-sharpening sword rogues. But Ashtongue Slayer here looks pretty useless unless you hit obviously exactly one of the 1-cost stealth minions. So is it just a sword keep? Is it just a Greyheart Sage keep?
Definitely keeping the sword. I wouldn't hate the look of Ashtongue even with the sword, because you could just say this is a turn 2 play, because I don't want to dagger on turn 2 if I'm playing self-sharpening on turn 3. And that allows, certain 1-drop top decks to be insane.
Yeah, you could just choose to be an absolute lord like Alutemu and just hit your opponent for 5 on turn 2.
But that is a strong draw for Alan. Make no mistake.
VT?
Imagine.
No? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, 5 damage to face, turn 1. Insane. Ooh.
Okay.
Shaping together pretty nicely, though.
Trade from Alan optimizes the odds of removal, I think.
Yep, sure. Obviously, a couple of different lines. We could have been looking at an early Shenvala activation, but instead, Tempo's out the Cyclone, couple of spells obviously not to be sniffed at, and you can also just Tempo Shenvala here. It's not bad at all.
There were so many lines for Alan in the last turn. I was even thinking about Solarian coming down instead of the Mana Cyclone. The Cyclone does become quite useless after you use the coin, though. So, in the end, I think Alan's line is the most consistent way of using his resources.
Secret Passage does make sense here. You obviously don't have in this build the Toxin Blade as one of the cards he's cut to make room for the rest of this. But really, you just want any way to spend your mana at all, and Dread Corsair does that really nicely.
Yeah, even manages to fit in the Worgen Infiltrator. Worgen Spy, as it's called in Japanese. Pretty sure.
Ooh.
Apprentice doesn't accomplish all that much, but if you just put it down alongside Frost Nova, that suddenly makes 2 must remove. Well, I say must remove, but this weapon rogue really just wants to go face.
Yeah, I think that no matter what you do here, Alutemu is going to ignore everything and go face. So it's just about how do you make that how do you mitigate that as much as possible, which I think means removing on this turn is just the #1 priority.
Wow,
Oi,
unstoppable
oi, oi.
curve from Alutemu. A free cutting class after this attack connects to the face, I have to imagine.
He's thinking for like a second here, and it's already too much thinking. All of this is going face. How dare you even suggest otherwise?
I guess you can consider, yeah, Worgen into Shinvala as the only trade.
Fine.
And casters in our Discord calling me a boomer, you saying fine at me like I'm your mom. What happened in this 1 week of Montreal where I didn't cast?
We got hip, Gia.
I
We got
wonder.
cool. Because cool people say hip. Everyone knows that.
I was gonna say. Is this the apprentice turn?
Oh,
It
it's
doesn't
so
do all that
bad.
much.
It's so
It's
bad.
terrible.
I mean, the solace is that if your opponent has to sink this weapon into apprentice, you kind of take that as a win, honestly. Like, considering
Right.
how far behind Alan is at this point.
That was my thinking. But it's probably not good enough. I think Alan needs to hit an evocation into like ice barrier, etc. from this apprentice. He's just going for Nova to heal 8. Krastanov!
Pretty disgusting. I mean, already I think Alutemu is thinking, like, are there any ways that I can lower the percentage chance of Solarian being drawn? Like, he may even just trade into the 2-2 here with Krastanov, just so that Solarian Prime is less likely to be found.
I mean, Alan's going into turn 6. I think it's fine to kill the Solarian.
Okay, fair. I mean, it's like, it's an
Alutemu-
extra turn with it in the deck for turn 7, but yes, sure.
So many options.
The point was really just that he is extremely far in the lead and just needs to think
Correct.
about what are the outs from Alan here that can go wrong for Alutemu.
Definitely like Krastanov +1 thief. The merit to setting up Infiltrator Lillian is that that's a stealth minion that gives Alutemu a near guaranteed 2-turn setup.
It's true.
But for immediate board presence, it's a bit weaker than the Krastanov, I think.
Oh, he almost did it. He almost. Oh!
Alutemu, stop
Okay.
playing with us like this.
Makes the sensible play, the grown-up play here, of just trading into the Solarian instead. It is kind of weaker
When I'm being called old, it's not hip, but when Alutemu is being called grown up, it's sensible.
I don't make the rules, Gia. I just follow them, okay? Don't hate the player, hate the game. It's cool people say that still as well, in case you're wondering.
I am wondering what Alan's outs are, but that is not it.
And there we see it, Gia. For the first time this season, 5 weeks in, we see Alutemu win a series of Hearthstone. And I gotta say, that feels like it counts for 2. That was extremely one-sided.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Very well deserved from Alutemu. Similar to, I suppose, Surrender series, where the 2 players who ended up winning had a lot of fortunate outcomes, but when they were given tough decisions, they absolutely hit the nail on the head there. I have to say I feel for Alan because he is also an extremely strong player where I don't think he had that many opportunities to showcase that in this series, but Alutemu needed a welcome break. I was talking about that from the very beginning of the broadcast. He puts himself on the board at 1-1, and even for Alan, it's not too bad because he's still at a positive overall match score with 2-1.
That's right. Still very favourable looking here for Alan going into the rest of things. And I'm really glad that Alutemu isn't like right down at the bottom of Division B, because that's simply not where he deserves to be in the rankings of APAC, in my opinion. Things might be starting to take a change for the positive now, as we can take a look at the standings now that we've come to the end of our day in APAC. Of course, Surrender taking the win is the headline here for me. Him moving up to 3-0. Chonsu down to 0-3. Chonsu was my pick at the start of the season, and despite getting through to Division A, looking pretty good at the start, it's been a pretty swift downturn for him heading into the round robin.
I mean, Chonsu just decided to sabotage you, right? You say that you're his pick, and he brings Shaman, and no.
Yeah.
Obviously, Chonsu has a plan with his lineup. He didn't hit the target up against Surrender, but he will be playing another series later on this weekend up against Tyler. Both of them at the bottom of the table right now, so that series could be, you know, very necessary for one player to take much needed momentum going into the rest of weeks. Over in Division B, Alutemu moving all the way up with that 1 win is definitely the story for me.
Indeed. Possessi only played one game as well, though, as another of the Japanese players, and lost that one. Down at the bottom of Division B right now. He's got to try and pull this one back. But, you know, like we've been saying, Alutemu, Possessi, a whole bunch of these players down at the bottom doesn't feel like they deserve their based on their play so far. So I'm sure they'll be able to turn things around as we head into the next few weeks. We still have, after this week is finished, 2 more weeks of round robin before we head to the playoffs come the 8th week of this season of Grandmasters. So plenty of time for our players to turn things around. They're going to be playing 14 matches in total. So not to be too scared yet for our players. But overall, what a day of Hearthstone. I mean, like, most of top 5 for me is already done based on just that first day from APAC.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to have a bit of trouble, though, because most of our top moments happened in the late game there. I think the macro game plan is where we got to see a lot of the players shine, especially in Surrenders and Alutemu's cases. But we do have a lot more Hearthstone to be played out in the next 2 days. And I'm excited to see what the rest of the weekend brings coming off the back of an MT meta.
Indeed, things being shaken up. We're seeing the influence here big time. Obviously, Chonsu being the main one. Rivius as well, just kind of taking lineups from some of the players who have been performing well. A very decent strategy to go for, even if it didn't work out for Chonsu quite yet. As I was saying, that's us all done for the day, though, here in APAC. Europe and America's still yet to come, with Raven and Sottle to take you through Europe first. So thank you so much for watching here. We will see you tomorrow. But for now, enjoy Europe with Raven and Sottle. We'll be watching alongside you. Goodbye.